Hello, it's James again from the Rhyl People's Assembly, also Councillor James Ball from the Labour Party, the left-wing socialist, Corbyn supporting wing of the local Labour Party. Anyway, hello, it's Monday the 12th of November. As it's Monday, we'll be talking about the headlines and what's going on around the UK today, and our sort of take on it as the Rhyl People's Assembly, and obviously me myself as well as a local councillor in a deprived ward. But before I do that, I just want to touch on yesterday, which of course was the 11th. It was the 100th anniversary of the ending of the First World War. Very important, very important Remembrance Sunday. And I was struck by quite a few things, more so than before. First of all, I think because of the importance of this particular Poppy Sunday, the Poppy Police, as they've been dubbed, seem to be in full mode, full swing. I do have a poppy. I did donate on Friday between 4 and 6. I was in my Morrison's over the road, selling poppies and all the different range of stuff you can get now, which is quite amazing. I was quite taken aback by all the things you can get, snap bands and just everything. Those different sort of enamel poppies, which will lead me on to the Corbyn criticism yesterday and today of his enamel pin badge, which was just comical, because it's a very sort of, I don't know, male argument. You know, your poppy wasn't as big as my poppy. It's quite funny, you know. Your poppy was disgracefully small. I mean, you couldn't, you know, I can't get across it anymore. It's just so funny and so predictable that it's just, you know, I was sitting here this morning thinking, who reads that Metro front page and gets cross because Corbyn's poppy was too small? Who? I'm sure there are people, but I was just imagining someone sitting there getting really worked up about Corbyn and his poppies. Oh, anyway. So I'm going off on a tangent there. Yeah, I started last week without meaning to filling in on a local radio, a digital radio show on Sound Radio, talking to a gentleman who's set up something called Woody's Lodge in Conway, which has got a satellite sort of office here in Rhyl, which obviously is for veterans, ex-service people suffering from PTSD or just having trouble sort of transitioning from life in the services to life outside here, which is, you know, is tough for everybody, but it's a very different sort of lifestyle, you know, different mentality. And basically giving them sort of people they can talk to who have come out of the services themselves and know what it's like, you know. But it's also for people who are responders from emergency services, so police, fire, ambulance, and that sort of thing. So that was great, but that was purely by coincidence. I happened to be involved in that. Talked about homelessness amongst veterans and things. Then in the week there was a story out about prisoners making poppies for the Royal British Legion at £4 an hour rather than the national minimum wage, which obviously a lot of people have been cross about because it just didn't seem right, particularly as someone pointed out, there are so many veterans in prison because they didn't receive the help they needed from PTSD and addiction because of that or other mental health issues, who have ended up in prison, who couldn't cope when they came out of the services. So it's a complicated issue. So that sort of was going around in my mind on Friday, 4 to 6, when I was sitting there selling the poppies, and particularly when I saw how much money had been raised just that day, and the bucket on the table in front of me, it was everyone remarked how full it was, how much was in there, and people were talking about how they'd raised sort of £3,000 at a different supermarket locally in the space of a few days, and so there's huge amounts of money going into big third-party charities like the Royal British Legion, thanks to the generosity of the public and the support of the public. And I sat there and thought, well, why can't they afford to pay, or why aren't they paying prisoners who may well be veterans as well, the national minimum wage? Because it seems to me, just from anecdotally from doing this, that they're getting a lot of money. They're a very big charity, like the British Heart Foundation, like Cancer Research UK. They're probably a top 10 charity, that everybody knows. We've probably got lots of very good funding streams aside from public donations. And anyway, that did cross my mind. I've met, obviously over the years, homeless veterans locally who don't seem to be getting help from the local authority or from these big veterans charities, which always seems a bit odd to me. And then on Friday, well, after I'd finished that and come home, I was listening to a radio show that I often listen to on Fridays, which discusses all of these things. The figures came up, and the figures were 13,000 homeless veterans sleeping rough in the UK, and 4,500 veterans in our prisons. And I hadn't realised those were the figures. And I just thought, as I think anybody would. Oh, and I also found out there was roughly about £500 million worth of monies in these bigger charities that are supposed to be helping veterans, basically, in their bank accounts. It's just not going anywhere. As I say, it occurred to me, and I think to anybody who'd be thinking about the problem, why isn't that money being spent on the 13,000 homeless veterans, trying to get them places built, or something for them, so they're not homeless, so they're not on the street? Because of course it's very hard to treat mental illness or addiction if people aren't somewhere secure in the first place. That's the basis, isn't it, really? So yeah, I wasn't quite, this was all going around in my head yesterday. So obviously I was supporting and remembering my own relatives from the First and Second World Wars, and the sacrifice and everything. But I couldn't help but think about, what are these big charities doing? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Having worked voluntarily for a big charity, my hunch would be that there's a disconnect between the people that run the charity, the sort of senior level management, the CEO, the board members, and the ground level. The clients, what they're supposed to be doing for them, the people that are volunteering, trying to do these things. Often these sort of professional types of people that run these things, just, although maybe well-meaning, simply don't have the first-hand experience of the client base, or the people are supposed to be helping have gone through or going through. So obviously they're funding projects and things for maybe disabled or injured veterans, but are they putting enough into housing if you've got 13,000 out on the streets? So that was one issue. I think those questions need to be asked if people are donating all this money. So that was one thing. Obviously, I had to watch, to me, and I know to many of you watching this, the hypocrites, Theresa May, Tony Blair, at the cenotaph, laying wreaths and pretending to care. Probably half an hour later, she's after backing down the street, probably getting lobbied by arms companies and speaking to Saudi Arabian government, and of course slaughtered 50 children on a school bus in Yemen, causing one of the greatest humanitarian crises ever in Yemen, and we're helping them do it with our weapons. So hypocrisy with a gigantic H. But of course, Corbyn's the one that gets attacked for having a embarrassingly small poppy. Tony Blair standing right behind the man. It was just odd to see Tony Blair right behind Jeremy Corbyn. It was just surreal. At the cenotaph, it was just odd. I won't start ranting, so I won't do that. The poppy police were obviously jumping on Corbyn straight away. I think some people thought he wasn't wearing a poppy at all, then the poppy was too small. I own a poppy. I didn't wear it on the day because I don't feel I need to wear a poppy to commemorate what happened and the dead. People, it's a private thing, commemoration. And for me, maybe for many of you, my grandparents and great-grandparents fought so that 100 years later I could have the choice, and you could have the choice of how we dress or don't dress or commemorate in our own way. So anyway, that was that. Let's move on to news now. So yeah, I'm afraid universal credit's in the headlines today for a very good reason. So is Brexit and Theresa May's problems with her own cabinet members, and Labour's problems with a slight difference of opinion between the leader, Jeremy Corbyn, and the shadow Brexit minister, Sir Keir Starmer. And I think that's all I'll touch on today. This will be an hour-long video, and you'll be a bit bored, but my ramblings. So universal credit finally did our action on Friday outside our local job centre. Lots of support. A few people wanted to know what was wrong with universal credit, why we were protesting against it. Obviously, one of the main reasons, everyone knows about the sort of 6-week wait from claiming to getting it where we've got no money, which obviously is a huge problem. And that's an average wait. For us, one of the biggest problems as well is debt, and particularly rent arrears. Some people becoming homeless because they can't pay their rent basically, and they can't pay their rent because they're already in debt, so they're having to fiddle with money that's coming to them that used to, in part, the housing benefit part, go to straight to the landlord. So they wouldn't, it wasn't under their control. If you're in debt, obviously you have to juggle money around, which increases the problem of the likelihood of you missing rent payments. Apparently, in Flintshire, which is next to where I am in Denbighshire, BBC Panorama have been there, and they found out that since universal credit was rolled out there and replaced housing benefit for people who were getting it, I think last year, so it's like a year sort of difference from the systems now, the switch over, eviction rates have gone up 55%, 55% in a year in Flintshire for those renting from the local authority, so council renters basically, which is just, I can't quite believe that, to be honest, but obviously I'm shocked that it's that level within a year. So I'm just looking at my crib sheet here with stats on because I'm not very good at remembering stats. It said in Flintshire you could know up to 6 times as much rent as on the old housing benefits under universal credit from their investigations. That's what they found out. Basically, the headline was average rent arrears for council tenants was about £268 under housing benefit, the old previous system. Under universal credits, it's £668, which obviously is vastly more, and will sink you if you're relying on universal credit to survive. You're going to get sunk. You're going to get, somewhere that's going to fail. Your budgeting is going to fail, no matter how well you do it. So you're either going to be in massive debt, or at some point unable to pay your rent, which is probably why the arrears are so high. Apparently, from the story I was reading in the Independent about this, in 2011, so 7 years ago, when Ian Duncan Smith and the government were basically rubber stamping universal credit, but doing the impact assessments, a professor from Sheffield University, whose name was Paul Hick, I think, Professor Paul Hick, carried out a study and found that only 8% of respondents would be able to pay their full amount of rent. 8%. The government ignored him. From what he says, they just wanted to roll it out, universal credit, full stop, ignore what he said. And even now with these figures, they're just rolling ahead. They've delayed the second phase, which is switching people on ESA and existing benefits onto universal credit, because of the terrible headlines, but they're not stopping it. They haven't done anything to the system to sort this out. They've just delayed it for now, so hoping it'll go away in the headlines. So things are even worse than we'd feared when we were out on Friday. And up until then, it was very funny on Friday because the manager came out, who was very polite this time. Previously, it was a completely different response. A different manager at the time immediately called the police to try and get us moved on for protesting on the streets, High Street, public space. Obviously we didn't go, but that was all a bit unnecessary really. But this manager came out, very polite, very nice. I knew him from when I was signing on 3 or 4 years ago. He's obviously risen in the ranks, and we were telling him why we were here because of this. It's particularly about homelessness and rent arrears and that, and people falling into debt and can't pay their rents. So he sort of came out with there are some good news stories too, and all this sort of stuff, because of course he'd have to say that, wouldn't he? But I wish I'd had these figures on Friday to fight back. Yeah, he's on message, he's the manager, he has to say this stuff, doesn't he? But we all know that's obviously not the case for too many people. If it's doing this to 2-3 people, it's still 2-3 people getting shafted, families getting shafted. So it's a huge issue still. Sorry, I'm just going to reposition myself, a bit uncomfortable. So that was universal credit. Brexit, you've probably seen from the news this morning, Theresa May's in trouble because Boris Johnson's openly called for other ministers who haven't come out yet in the Tory party, but who he knows are unhappy with her Chequers sort of plan to oppose it, to vote it down when it comes before the cabinet. So she's in a bit of trouble. A DUP who are propping her up, literally, in votes in the House of Commons, they're not happy because her solution to the Irish border is certainly not what they want. So she's got a lot of trouble. The only way it seems at the minute that she's going to survive a House of Commons vote on it is if enough Labour MPs support her and support her government, which of course would be absolutely shameful. Absolutely shameful, because what we need is a general election. We need these Tories out. Else we're not going to have a country left after Brexit to worry about, effectively, for most of us. No matter what the deal is, the Tories are quickly destroying it, which is why I'm doing this and we're all doing this, and you're probably watching this. So, yeah, that I've no doubt some will want to and some will just to, I don't know, try and damage Labour's reputation with the electorate, and obviously stick it to Corbyn. But of course these are Labour MPs only in name. These are people who are under the control of Blair, the right wing. Of course don't want true democracy in the party or the country. They want us to be controlled and ruled by them, the elite, still, post-Brexit. So, yes, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I just hope that doesn't happen. I really hope it doesn't happen. That'll be a betrayal of every single struggling poor person and every working person in this country, frankly. So anyway, that's what's happening there. Labour have a problem today, which is on Sunday it came out that in an interview with Der Spiegel newspaper in Germany, Jeremy Corbyn said that Brexit can't be stopped because we've had the referendum 2 years ago, Brexit was voted through, Article 50 was triggered, we're now 2 years down the line, we're supposed to be exiting within months really. So that's democratically how it's gone. So it has to be fulfilled. But of course we've got Keir Starmer coming out today, so it's Sir Keir Starmer, obviously, our shadow Brexit minister, coming out saying that technically, it's his lawyer speak, because he's an ex-lawyer, technically nothing's ruled out, everything's options on the table. So he's talking about technicalities. This is two different things. That's the speak, that's the sort of electoral speak to people who, please those who want to stay and please those who want to leave or try to, and all of that. In reality, politically, it'll be extremely difficult and almost, I would think, suicidal, actually, for Labour to try and or openly call for a second referendum and scupper or overthrow the vote of 2 years ago. Bearing in mind that many of those people that voted to leave were disaffected Labour voters in Labour areas. The old working class, basically. I just think it'll be utter suicide for Labour, reputationally and electorally. Because you're talking about basic principles of democracy. I don't get a choice. I've never had a choice in my life. Each time there's been a general election and the bloody Tories have been elected, or Blair was elected. When did I get the choice of a second bite of the apple then? That's the way it goes. It's called democracy. And I keep trying to make it plain to my colleagues that if we stay in the EU and did reverse it, not only would you have unforeseen consequences from the millions of people that voted out that were then ignored, but much of the new socially progressive manifesto promises that Corbyn came up with the cabinet last year and did so well for us electorally the EU would not let us implement, particularly when it comes to the regional banks. They wouldn't be allowed. Just wouldn't allow it. So, we need some clear thinking on this. I understand it's an emotive thing because you think people see Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage and other little pipsqueak, lying about saving this money and kicking out immigrants and all this kind of crap. And I always have a visceral sort of response to it, as do I. But don't listen to them, ignore them. Just have a look at the manifesto, what you want to be implemented, and what the rules are, basically. And also think about the fact that we've already had a democratic vote. What Keir Starmer's doing at the minute is trying to damage Corbyn's position and authority, him and his ilk, I'm afraid, because they don't want to leave. They're pro-EU because they're part of the establishment. This is the whole point. This is the establishment that wants us. This is why May and her lot have purposely ballsed up the entire 2 years negotiations. So we got to this point where we possibly have a hard Brexit, or we don't know what we've got, frankly. Even our own lot don't know what we've got, because their heart's not here. They don't want to leave because they're part of the establishment. They're part of the same club, not the club that you and me are in. We're not in a club, are we? We're just trying to make our lives bearable and livable. So I think that's it, really. Obviously, comment the way you see fit underneath in the comment section. Any more updates during the week, I'll stick up a few short videos. We've got on the channel, I have created playlists now, so we've got playlists for these weekly news items, playlists for the Universal Credit Campaign, for the Real People's Assembly, and our other austerity campaigns, or against austerity campaigns, and what else? And events, because we have special events now and again that we hold. So the videos up there are just like some videos. We've held many more events. We have tons of street campaigns. So these are just like some that we've videoed to stick up, really. So we've got an event coming up saying we need a general election at some point, which will be decided on when that's going to be. Which is why we don't need people like Keir Starmer saying that technically we can still have a second referendum rather than a general election, because we need a general election. Forget the EU point for a minute. People are desperately need a general election to get rid of the bleeding Tories in the first place. So we've got a country left after Brexit that actually works for people at all, in any way, shape or form. Anyway, thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and ciao from me and ciao for Che. From Che. Ciao for Che. Che from Che. Ciao from Che. Someone doesn't commented they don't like me. They don't like the poster. Not a good look, I think they said. This is a famous work of art. This is a famous poster created in the late 60s of Che by, I think it was Fitzgerald. I think it's Fitzgerald. There's an F there. See that? What that is? Which no one noticed, apparently. It was just taken from the original photo. Famous photo. And so from me, Che, and Beethoven, who you might hear you might have heard playing during this. Piano sonatas. Ciao for now. Wait, before you go, this is a PS. I forgot. Tomorrow, if you want to tune in on your computer or your tablet, your phone, I'll be on Sound Radio, which is you can find the website. I think it must be soundradio.com or something like that, which is North Wales digital radio station, with my friend and colleague from comrade from the Real People's Assembly, Andrea, and Paul, who produces the show and hosts the show. And so from 1 to 2, Andrew and Paul, perhaps me, will be talking about the news. Again, things we'll be talking about here, or anything new tomorrow. And from 2 to 3, I and they will be talking about how to claim benefits, the changes in the system, universal credit, about what's coming up for people on ESA and things like that, as far as switching over and where to go or what to do if you need help with things like appeals and things like that. Okay, so yeah, everyone tune in. It's 1 to 3 Sound Radio, find the webpage, the website, and we're on live tomorrow. Yeah, bye bye.